Hey car family, back at it again with another episode of State of the Build here on the Peak Auto YouTube channel. My name's Emily Reeves. I'm your host of this really awesome little series where I get to interview awesome humans that make videos that you guys want to see on this channel. It's behind the scenes updates on their builds and getting to chat about the plans for them. On this episode, we have Dylan McCool, which you guys have suggested quite a few times. He was able to make some time for us today, so we are going to toss some videos back and forth and talk about his Challenger. Let's get to it. What's up, Dylan? Emily here. I'm so excited to hear about the Challenger. Thank you so much for taking the time to toss some videos back and forth with me today for this episode. Here in Texas, we are having a lovely spring shower, so hopefully I don't have too much background noise because there's been some thunder and lightning. So yeah, anyway, let's hear about the Challenger. We're stoked to have you on the show.
Any bad weather you have right now is probably on its way to me, but I greatly appreciate you guys having me on the show. The story of the Challenger goes is that I actually was messaged on Instagram about this car. It was sitting in somebody's backyard in the very way out in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, and here it is right here. It's a 73, originally a 318 with a 3-speed manual transmission. It's obviously not that currently, but we'll get to that in a second. So the story goes that it was a one-owner car, and the guy who actually bought it originally was a traveling teacher, and he had left to go on one of his teaching jobs, I would assume, and he actually passed away before he was able to come back and get the car. So his family ended up inheriting the car, and it sat basically since 1984. And unfortunately, within that time, they said they would start it up every now and then, but the engine had actually seized itself up, and it was not turning over whatsoever. So what I ended up doing was bringing it home. You know, we had to fight to get that thing to even get on the trailer. The brakes were stuck and no spinning of the engine. Got it home, tried to figure out what was wrong with the engine, tried to start it, nothing happened. So I ended up pulling it out and get to what you see today.
I will happily send you all of this rainy, gross weather. It's coming your way. I'm gonna will it there. I love this car. Oh, it's got a late model motor in it. I'm digging it already. And I love the story. I bet his family is so happy that you have it now and giving it new life. So how long have you had it? Did it sit a long time before you started wrenching on it, or did you hit the ground running with this car? I know a lot of our vehicles sit around and wait patiently for us to get our acts together to work on them. I don't know if you're the same way, but how long have you had her?
You would be correct. That is a Gen 3 Hemi out of a 2006 Jeep Grand Cherokee. And it is bone stock, but for what it is, it's pretty peppy, surprisingly. Yeah, the family was pretty excited about seeing the car get moved after all that time. The story goes, the guy had actually stopped and looked at the car before I had the chance to, but he wanted to use it for parts, which kind of broke my heart. And looking at it back whenever I saw the car originally, I guess I could understand it, because probably back in the 90s and 2000s, this car probably would have made the chopping block for a parts car, because the frame rail was toast in the back, had to replace that, the trunk floor, and all that stuff was just gone. But I actually bought this car in February of 2019, and yes, you're just like me. These cars sit for a long time before I even get a chance to touch them, because it was probably that following summer, after Power Tour 2019, I actually got to start working on this car for the first time. And what I did was drag it up to the shop and just kind of figure out what was wrong with it. And, you know, I mentioned about the 318. Well, that was the first thing to go. Transmission, first thing to go. Then I started looking under the car and thought, wow, this thing is worse than I thought it was. But I had already dedicated myself to fixing this car and making it roadworthy again. So like I mentioned, it started out with a complete frame rail swap and a complete trunk floor swap, complete floor pan swap, and everything inside. I mean, it's all basically, it looks rough, and you can see on the door right here, I mean, it looks like it's a beat up old car, but structurally it actually is solid.
So this car would be considered a resto mod because it's got a bunch of new gen parts but looks old and junky on the outside. I love cars like that. So now, is this one a driver yet? I know it's got all these new components. Have you worked out kinks? Is it a driver, or is it still in process? What's the story there? P.S. I love Hot Rod Power Tour. Was that your first time going? Aaron and I have gone for years and years, and man, it's an addictive event. Love it. Your car is so stellar.
Yeah, that was basically my goal for this build, was to show people that you don't have to spend all this money on nice paint and nice everything else and have the biggest and baddest engine to have a lot of fun. I mean, this car looks rough on the outside. Like I mentioned, it was supposed to be a parts car, but it ended up being a really fun driver, a really cool car. And like I said, I don't really have a whole lot of money in this thing as it sits. That is a Gen 3 Hemi out of a Jeep Cherokee, and internally it's basically all stock. I just did a couple tiny little things to it, and it's a pretty fun car as it sits. It's got a Holley Terminator X EFI system, and I bought this LS throttle body off of eBay. So that's basically it, besides the oil pan swap. It's a pretty much a drop-in situation. Other than that, I did rear disc brakes and then upgraded the front brakes, sway bars all the way around, and it's got these nice and big 17-inch tires. And they handle really well. This car is an awesome car to drive and carve around the twisty turns out here in Tennessee. But yeah, it's something that kind of is a testament to that and show people that you don't have to spend a ton of money. My favorite part about this car, where I spend money on, is where you're sitting. Now, these seats are very comfortable. These are Corbeau seats, and I absolutely love these. And I got the interior from Classic Industries, and those are Dakota digital gauges. And yes, it does have the pistol grip 4-speed shifter in it. And I'm telling you, this car is super comfortable. About fall asleep every time you drive it. But yeah, I'm working on some mechanical issues. I've got a vibration in the drive line, trying to fix that. I've had the transmission out a couple times. And I've logged probably a little less than 1,000 miles on it so far, and I do plan on taking it on a Power Tour 2021. My first time that I went, like you asked, was in 2018. I took my Dart Swinger, but I ended up not doing the whole thing just to kind of get my feet wet. And then the next year I took my 69 Charger that was not meant to be on Power Tour. That was a very stressful trip, but it certainly did make it. But I definitely recommend anybody who wants to go on Power Tour, just do it, because this car is going to be there in 2021, and it'll be at the Holly Mo Party in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's a really good event. I recommend anybody to go to it.
Well, you're clearly doing an awesome job influencing people and inspiring folks to do the same that you've done with this car. I look forward to seeing it on Power Tour this year. That's going to be so awesome. So do you have a list of stuff other than the driveline vibration to do to the car before the tour? Are you going to do any other mods? Anything on the list that we should look out for content-wise on this build, or is it pretty much ready to go and hit the road? I know that we're going to be taking Roxy on Power Tour, and I've got a list, even though the car is a great driver. I feel like projects are never done. Oh, it's awesome though. That car is so legit, and the interior is beautiful. Those seats look really nice. I want to sit in them. Come August, I'm going to try them out. That's awesome, dude.
You are absolutely right. Project cars are never done. There's always something else that you realize that you forgot or overlooked, and you got to do it right then or there. You won't make it. But I'm planning on checking out Roxy when we're on Power Tour, and heck, we might even park them next to each other or line them up. Who knows? Future plans and modifications, I do want to get the air conditioning working. That's one thing that is basically a necessity. I want to maybe do a cam swap, maybe do an intake swap, long tube headers, supercharger, turbos, who knows? Or I could just leave it alone, because sometimes it's best to just not touch them, especially when they run and drive as good as this thing does. But what I do want to do at some point is take this thing to a dyno and just kind of see what kind of power the Hemi can put out. It was rated at like 345 horsepower from the factory, and I think that's pretty close to what we can get now. If we put down 300 to the wheels, I think that would be an awesome, fun little driver, and I think with a little bit of tweaking with our Terminator X, we can get to that point. But other than that, it just needs some miles put on it and a lot of the bugs worked out of it. I'm trying to break it at this point. You know, when you're in that point where you're working on something and you've got everything you think worked out, so you just keep driving it and driving it, hoping something breaks so that way you can fix it before the big trip. That's where I'm at.
I'm cracking up. AC's on the list for Roxy too. You're like, I want to do a cam swap, long tube headers, a supercharger. Isn't that funny? And how the gearhead brain works. It's like, we just finished saying it's such a good driver, it's got decent power, it's like fun, maybe I shouldn't touch it, but then actually I kind of want to do all the things. It's so funny. Well, Roxy is certainly fun with boost. I'm sure that car would be too. At the same time, it's probably going to create a lot more stress for you if you do all those mods on something especially as intense as Power Tour. It's not like you just drive it to one spot and park it, or just one day of racing. It's a hardcore event, driving every day and usually racing when we get to the venues. So yeah, I mean, you'll probably be crazy and do some awesome mods to it at some point, but you know, I support you and whatever decisions you make, because nothing about Roxy is stock, so I can't talk. I love it, dude. And I'd love to line them up on Power Tour. That would be fun. Dude, this car is really, really cool. I'm so glad to get the rundown on it, and I can't wait to see it in person. Thank you so much for taking the time to toss videos back and forth with me. We had a lot of people request to have you on the show, so that will be great to make those folks happy. Maybe we can make some content together on Power Tour. That'd be cool. And hope you get some rain today. It's calm down here, so maybe it's headed your way. We'll see you soon, dude.
See, I need people telling me not to do it, but since you kind of hinted it, maybe I should. Sounds like I need to, but you're absolutely right. Us car folks, we like to make it hard on ourselves and, you know, throw modifications and stuff that really don't need it. But hey, yeah, Power Tour's coming up. Look forward to seeing you guys there. And I appreciate you having me on the show today. It's been a lot of fun talking with you. And like I said, I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. And see you in the Challenger out on the open road.
What a great dude he is. I love that car, and I cannot wait to see it in person in August on Hot Rod Power Tour. That is going to be so much fun. I bet that we will do a lot of episodes there on Power Tour, so you guys can look forward to that content coming up very soon. It's actually approaching rather rapidly. We need to get to work. Thank you guys so much for watching this series. I have a really great time doing it. I wish that I could go visit all of these folks in person, but you know, texting videos back and forth is quick and easy, and it makes a fun episode, kind of a behind the scenes vibe of what these people are doing with their cars and the stories behind them. So I love it. If y'all could comment down below who else you want to see on the channel, that would be awesome. And if you enjoy this series, please hit that like button and subscribe and share it with your friends. I certainly look forward to seeing you next time.